Toys from My Attic, bringing you the best toys from the best decade. And boy, do we have a great show for you tonight. If you liked He-Man, if you liked LJN, if you even like the GoBots, now's the time to hit subscribe so you don't miss a damn thing. And tonight I got a great special guest, other than my friend Dwork over there, Brian from one of my favorite pages, one of my favorite 80s pages, Raising 80s Awareness. Welcome, Brian. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And we actually met because I had an 80s page. There you go.
Right here.
That's where we met. I had an 80s page and you were just starting out one with a group of your friends, and you contacted me and be like, I think you asked for a share, right?
Yeah.
Like we started talking about video games, and you're like, there's a huge arcade up by in New Hampshire, Laconia, called Fun Spot. I'm like, that sounds fantastic. I brought up my friend, you brought your friend, and we've been doing that for what, 7 years straight?
7 years, yeah, I think 7 years.
COVID beat us down last summer.
I still went.
You still went.
But you couldn't cross state lines. But
I couldn't cross state lines from Jersey without quarantining or whatever. You had, and I would have hit so many rest stops. It would have been.
Oh yeah.
It would have been a disaster. So me and Sexton, we didn't go last year, which is sad. But we got 7 years strong. So it's been a long time, and we do this every day. We talk about video games at least once a day, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Tonight, we're going to discuss one of our favorite, actually back in the day when I used to do tournaments, remember those days?
Of course, yeah.
They were fun. Well, the first one I ever did was the best toy of the 80s. And you know what won? The NES. And that's what we're doing tonight. The best toy that was voted on by you, the people, the NES. And we're going to talk about the top 5 NES games. Now, they're not necessarily going to be what everybody thinks is the top 5. This is our top 5. And I think they're pretty damn good. When I first spoke to you on this, you're like, well, how are we going to decide the top 5? I'm like, I guarantee if you tell me your top 5, I bet you they match. And what happened? We matched. We had to come up with 6 because we both had the 5 and 6 interchangeable. So we're actually going to bring you 6 tonight. And they're both going to be number 5. We just couldn't leave these ones off. We couldn't do it. But we came up with the same list because we share the same 80s video game brain. And like I said, we've been doing this for 7 years. Raising 80s Awareness has been killing it the past few years. While I took a little hiatus, you guys just kept growing. And you're up to how many at this point?
We're about 5K away from 100,000.
They're almost hitting 100,000.
So I just want to quickly say something about your page. Is that when I was going through, just starting the 80s page, and I was going around asking for shares and whatever from everybody, a lot of people would just ignore you or whatnot. But your page, I found not only was it informative, but it was hilarious. It was personable. You commented on everybody's comment. Even if it was a stupid little comment, you were still going to comment and say, hey, that's funny, whatever, and share the experience. And I think that's what people really liked. So your page is one of my favorite pages on Facebook of all time. Even though you come and go, whatever. Back then, when I first got there, I mean, that was it. I mean,
I love hearing that, especially from people I value their opinion. No, but I find you to be one of the funniest people I meet. So if you think my page is humorous, I know I'm doing something right. Because usually it's like a Drago for me. I do it for me. And if people like it, they like it. So when other people that I find funny like it, that's a plus, man.
Right.
That's when I know I'm doing something.
Whoa.
That's when I know I'm doing something right. So yeah, like I was saying before the poster fell down, it was I do my posts from a personal standpoint, and I hope people like them. And so when people do, I like to spend my time and talk to them. I like to get to know the fans and everything. And that is how we met. And it went to another level where all of a sudden we're hanging out and we're talking, and you have a page and I have a page, and we would talk about our pages all the time. And that it was so 2014 to 2016 was the golden years, our heyday for pages. Like it was so much fun back then. And people that actually liked our page actually saw it, and not everybody sees it now. That's why I take this every once in a while, but you stuck with it, and you're almost at 100,000.
Yeah. And I remember just when I did ask you for a share, you're like, yeah, no problem. Nobody is going to see this anyway, whatever, it's just, we kind of have the same personality. Like, no one's really you might get a couple extra, like no one's going to see it, whatever. But, it was, we were bitching about the page reach and stuff like that. And one of the posts that within, I think it was that week or that month or whatever, you posted about Game Boy, but instead of writing about the Game Boy, you wrote about the eggs and ham and cheese that you had in the morning.
I
And it
I
was this
bet
long ass post about how you like to cook the eggs.
I was so frustrated with people just liking pictures on Facebook. I bet you that
You,
I could put a picture of a Game Boy up and tell people what I ate for breakfast that morning, and I would get 500 likes. And it didn't matter what I wrote. I was such a disgruntled Facebook page owner at that point. And then when it actually happened, I was even angrier
yeah,
because I was hoping I was wrong and I wasn't.
it
So
was,
yeah,
it was awesome.
listen, it was so much. Those years were so much fun. We just were screwing around all the time, and now we're coming back and we're doing this. And
Facebook Ben.
I'm hoping to reignite what we had back then because it was a lot of fun.
That's right.
So my number 5 is based off my favorite arcade game of all time. Probably it's man, I played it nonstop back in the day. Glass Joe, Bald Bull, Mr. Sandman, Punch Out, and I couldn't wait till it came to Nintendo. But little did I know it was going to feature my favorite boxer of all time, Mike Tyson. And they actually signed him on. They took a risk. They signed him on before he became champion. Then he became champion, and oh, they got their money's worth out of this game. What a beautiful game. Not every character from the actual arcade made in. They had a few new characters, obviously. Vodka Drunkinski became
Yep.
Soda Popinski, and they cleaned it up a little bit for the kids. But what a hard ass game when you got to Mike Tyson. He was very difficult. He made Mr. Sandman look like Ghoulies too. And and when you got to him, he was Sandman looked like trash next to Tyson. And you see me when I go to Fun Spot. I'm always trying to get that number 1 spot on the punch out machine, and I always get a wonky controller. But I do my best. Man, I shook the shit out of the machine the one year though. I was heavily angry. But every year when we go to Fun Spot, this is the first game I look for. Lately, I've been playing Kangaroo more than that. But that's that's the Atari 2600 episode. Tell me about Tyson's Punch Out. What do you think about it?
Well, for the original Punch Out, I've seen you move the arcade cab about 6 feet from where it was standing.
Feats of strength in Laconia.
But Mike Tyson's Punch Out on the NES, it was a risk when they signed him. He was up and coming or whatever. I think he was 19-0 when they signed him.
Okay.
When they put him in the game, when the game hit store shelves, he was 31-0 and like a triple champion or something like that.
Wow.
So this is my confession. I have never beaten Michael Tyson. Okay, I've never beaten Kid Dynamite, whatever.
Mr. Dream
with Mr. Dream, that's a different story. Great game. Everything classic Nintendo. It's the soundtrack is great. They threw Mario in there as the ref. Challenging. They had a code system, so you didn't have to beat it all in one sitting.
That was different because not all games back then had that.
Right.
You were very lucky if you ran into a game that let you use a code.
You continue. Yeah. So
the Tyson code.
So Mike Tyson, this is what I've read, is that if he hits you in the first 90 seconds of the bout, it's an instant knockout. So
you stay away from him.
Yeah. I mean, I as a kid, I had the code, whatever. As a kid, I would try, and it's one.
We didn't have the internet. We didn't have the internet back then with like.
No, it was word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth. It was crazy how things got around, but yeah, you would get the code, and it would be like word of mouth kind of said like, don't let him touch you in 90 seconds. It's like, it was weird back then.
Right.
How a guy from New Jersey and a guy from Boston both got the same information.
Right. Yeah.
Down the line. But what an awesome game. I was planning on, because at one point I want us to do top NES sports game where we pick the best hockey game.
Oh, that'd be good.
The best baseball game, the best football game. I didn't really want to put sports into this, but we could not leave off Mike Tyson's Punch Out. We just couldn't. It's a masterpiece. And we also couldn't leave out this other game. What is your top 5?
Yep. It's Tecmo Super Bowl. And I'm going to cheat now because this is 80s toys from my attic, but this game actually came out in 1991. So uses the 1991.
I didn't realize that. You're right.
Yeah, but that's fine because the original Tecmo Bowl The original Tecmo came out in 1989, and it was a very good game. You only had 4 plays to choose from, but it was a very good game. It only had, I think, 10 or 12 of the teams in the league, and they couldn't use their logos and stuff. They had the players because, Jerry, Joe Montana would throw it to Jerry Rice, touchdown, but then it was just a generic San Francisco. There was no 49ers or whatever.
Eagles QB 12, right?
Eagles and Eagles, Bills, Eagles QB.
Yeah.
Until 1991 when the sequel came out, and then they got the NFL all the licensing from the Players Association. They had the real teams, the real players, the real attributes. It kept stats for your seasons. It's timeless. I mean, they still come out with the game every year, updated.
You buy it.
Yeah, I have. It came in a box and everything.
It's awesome.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'm a few years back now, 16, but yeah, Tecmo Bowl 16.
And being from Boston, what more do you want than to play with Tom Brady on Tecmo Bowl? There's nothing more that you could possibly want.
Right. Well, maybe Cam Newton, but
you might skip out on this year's game, this Tecmo Bowl game, depending on how he does. We'll see.
Right. But I was also going to say, like you, I know you kept extensive notebooks of all your wrestling matches with your figures and whatnot. Me and my buddy played seasons of Tecmo Super Bowl. I mean, you would play 16 game season against the computer. And then if you picked an AFC team and your friend picked an NFC team, you could meet up in the Super Bowl.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, you could play through a whole season. So we'd sit there all night long playing our games until we met up in the playoffs or whatever. And I kept notebooks full of stats, how many rushing yards I had, how many passing yards I had. So I mean, we talked
about my wrestling figures, but you remember the black box baseball game?
Of course.
Yeah, the original. Me and my friends, probably, I think there was like 4 or 5 of us. I mean, that was pretty basic game. I kept stats. We they didn't have names or anything.
No.
But we named one, whatever, whoever was out back then, Darryl Strawberry, this or that. And I kept stats on all those guys, and I had books and books. I did the same thing. And then later on, games like Madden today actually kind of does it for you. So
it keeps all the stats.
It's funny. They should keep overall stats. So how cool would that be? Then we'd really know who's screwing around on our teams in Madden Weekend League. But what a great game. And
we should also mention that we hold, when we go to Fun Spot, we hold the tournament for
I was just going to say it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we hold the tournament. We have 4, 6 guys. 4, 5, 6 guys.
Every summer when we go to Fun Spot, now you would think that we spent a lot of time in the arcade. That was the purpose of the trip. We go to the arcade, but you get all the tokens, you go for the day, but the majority of the trip is us on a deck, drinking, listening to music, and playing 80s games. And the majority of those 80s games is our Tecmo Bowl tournament, and it's serious. We don't mess around. We don't play. We've gotten arguments over it.
Yeah.
There's no trophy. There should be a trophy that we do every year.
It's the money in your pocket the next day. Sometimes.
I forgot all about that.
He's feeling lucky.
What was the word? How did I put it? I'm feeling lucky.
He started waving around
a 20.
Right.
Oh, that's the Bud Platinum talking is what that is.
Some days the next day I wake up and I'm like, I wish we could have played that other tournament. And we did, and I won, or whatever. But
you've won tournaments that you don't remember.
Yeah.
I believe the hockey. You're like, man, I really wish we played hockey last night. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, should I let him know he beat me? Yeah,
good times.
And you're like, I won. I'm like, yeah, and that really it pisses me off even more that I lost to some guy that doesn't even remember playing me.
Right.
But we play the original hockey with the fat,
skinny fat. Yeah, they're not making the list tonight.
We'll do that in the sports one.
Okay,
we'll talk more about that. But yeah, every summer we do the Tecmo Bowl tournament, and it's a timeless game. And I'm glad to play the newer one. Because, like you said, there's more plays. What did we find out to do last year? We found out to change the playbook.
You could do that since the 90s, and we didn't know that you could edit your playbook. And
the other 2 guys are in the other room in the tournament. And I'm like, psst, psst. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm changing my plays. You're like, you changing your plays. I'm like, yeah, I'm making all my formations the exact same formation. So they don't know what play I'm doing.
Right.
Give me the controller. And yeah.
It's genius.
And we're like, what they don't know won't hurt them.
Right.
It did. It did hurt them because we won that year. But
Yeah.
so awesome. Great game. Great game. Number four is also, it's not a discrepancy, but we couldn't leave either of these games out. And it's kind of like a New Hope versus an Empire Strikes Back argument. I'm a New Hope guy. I know Empire Strikes Back is the better movie, but I grew up on New Hope. I was 2 years old in the movie theater. It's the first movie I ever saw. My mom said I was a good boy. I didn't say a word. I was enthralled. So I that's what we're doing here. So Mr. Dwork, could you please put up the next slide? There it is. We got Super Mario Brothers and we got Super Mario Brothers 3. Now, when I did the NES tournament, this was the final match.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was Super Mario versus Super Mario Bros. 3. And I was a little mad because I was like rooting for some other games to make it more interesting in the end. But it was these two and they deserve it. So Super Mario Brothers introduced me to the system. And actually, what happened, what I wanted to talk about earlier, was our first experiences with the NES. And my first experience was fifth grade, summer between fifth and sixth grade. I went down to Florida with my family, went to Disney World. You would have thought, the highlight of the trip was, Mickey Mouse, Space Mountain, whatever. Back at our hotel, we had Super Mario Brothers in the little arcade there. I've never seen anything like it. And I played the shit out of it. I mean, we had a spa, we had a nice breakfast buffet every morning. That was nice. But I couldn't wait to get to play that Super Mario Brothers. And when I got home and I saw the NES, I had to have it. And there's this desire that burns inside me as a kid for toys. And it happens even now when I hear the PS5, whatever's coming out.
Yeah.
But this was different because we were kids and we were used to the Atari 2600. And with the Atari 2600, you'd play Donkey Kong, you'd go buy Donkey Kong, you'd put it on the TV, and you'd be like, this looks like dog shit. What is this? But you would play it because it was all you had. Donkey Kong was like, well, it didn't even look like a monkey. And Pac-Man, don't even get me started. This Pac-Man wasn't too bad on Atari though, but NES was different. So my mom gets it for me, and what comes with it? Super Mario Brothers. And I'm playing. As soon as I put it in, I'm waiting for Super Mario to look like dog shit. I'm expecting dog shit upon dog shit upon dog shit. That's what I'm expecting in this game. I turn it on and I yell out loud, "Holy shit, Mom, it looks just like the arcade game." And she goes, watch your language, first of all. And she goes, "Oh," but she's like, "Oh, it does." And we were like, even my parents were impressed because they sat around and played Atari with me. They saw what it looked like. They saw this and they're like, that looks just like the arcade. It was a different experience. I couldn't believe it. So it was exciting for me. So that's why I'm putting Super Mario there. And now that we're older, we see these YouTube runs where people just do it in, I don't even know, minute, 30 seconds. You know how long that game took me back in the day? I didn't know. I knew a few warp zones, but I didn't know like the super tricks. But so I'm going Super Mario Bros. On this one. You're going Super Mario Bros. 3. Great game. I played the first one more though. So tell me more about Super Mario Brothers 3.
Okay, so Super Mario Brothers 3 is probably, everybody that's watching this video is probably like, how is this not number one for you guys? This is number one in a lot of people's books. The game was massive. It was the biggest video game of its time for its time. It was the game file was, I think, 10 times larger than the original Super Mario Brothers, which just came out 5 years before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was a long road to Super Mario Brothers 3 too, because the game actually released in Japan in 1988. We didn't get it until 1990, and Nintendo pumped. I mean, they had such a big hit with Super Mario Brothers 2, which wasn't, Doki Doki Panic or whatever.
Right.
Doki
Doki Panic.
Super fun time challenge or whatever it was. They had a big hit with that in '88, so they're like, we can't release Mario 3 on the heels of this. So they bided their time, they refined it, whatever, and they pumped out $25 million worth of ads for Super Mario Brothers 3, not to mention the 90-minute commercial, The Wizard. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
With Fred Savage. That movie
Yeah.
was all about just the release of Mario 3. So
And the Power Glove too, right?
the Power Glove was in there. It was just a big ad campaign.
That useless
Yeah,
glove.
it's so bad.
I punched myself in the face with that. It made me so angry.
Yeah, so everything that Mario 3 did, it added so many staples to the Mario games. New suits, mini games, puzzles, the overworld map. You got to fight 7 of Bowser's Bastard Kids, and that, yeah, and they were all named after like musicians, like Lemmy. It was Lemmy from Motorhead.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Iggy is for Iggy Pop. Like, I don't know, the developers must have been like music buffs or something.
Where was
It was,
Axel? Well,
where
really?
was Axel or Slash
Yeah.
or something? I don't know.
Where's Izzy?
But yeah, whereas is we miss him. But yeah, no, the game had over 50 levels. Well,
It was
I think,
massive. I remember.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think like 9 worlds, 6. I don't know. It was just a massive game
And
and fun.
picking characters too.
Picking character. Well, that was in Doki Doki Panic Mario.
Yeah. Oh, you could still do that there. That's right.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they
Doki
did that
Doki.
for Luigi and whatever. So in
Yeah.
Mario 3, you could actually play as Mario and Luigi, 2 players, and one player could beat a stage, and then it would be the other player's turn to beat the next stage.
Okay.
You can play co-op kind of that way.
Right.
Yeah, it introduced a ton of new power-ups, a ton of new items to the Mario world. You could get a P-wing item that you could just fly through the level. Like, you wouldn't have to deal with any enemies. You could just save up your P-wings. You could just fly through the end of the level.
I'm gonna have to play this again. There's some games I don't want to say the games I play a lot because they're on our list, but this is one I need to play again because I beat it as a kid. I don't, but when I go back and play, I play Super Mario. When I play old Nintendo games, I kind of like to kick back and just
have fun,
relax, and this and that.
Yeah.
And Mario's just like that for me, like other games I'm going to talk about. But the Super Mario Bros. It's involved, and I need to go back and beat it.
Yeah, now it is challenging. You can store power-ups in it, and there's a ton of them, and you can store like 1-ups and whatever, but there is no continue system. So you kind of have to either find warp whistles to get to the end and beat it, or you have to invest like a whole day in order to beat it. Because like I said, there's over 50 levels. Everything's bigger.
And you just played this. You played this recently.
I played every game that we talked about tonight. I played for about 2 hours last weekend, just to kind of familiarize myself with it.
I talked about my first experience with. I didn't ask you earlier. What was your first experience with the NES system?
So in NES launched in '85. It didn't become available for the non-plete, for the regular public until probably a year later. The peasants got it a year later. I mean, but it got released in '85. I probably didn't see it in actual, with my own 2 eyes until sometime in '86. Now, I remember my buddy from the neighborhood got it, and it was Gradius that he was playing. And it was Christmas Eve, and I was over there all day long, and I kind of forgot that it was Christmas. I was so enthralled by playing Gradius and doing the Konami code. And getting full powered up shit, and we beat I think it's a brain at the end of Gradius.
It's like Life Force, great.
Right. We ended up beating it, and I looked, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like almost 8 o'clock at night. Oh my god, it's Christmas Eve, and that was my first.
Is nowadays any different for you, really?
No, not at all.
So next up on our list is a game that pretty much changed my views of games. There's very few games that have done that in my life. Recently, Neo 2 has done that. Recently, but back then, when new games came out like this next one, it changed everything. Dwark, please hit the slide. Metroid. Now, I've replayed this a couple years ago, and I was talking to you about it, and I'm on the first screen. I'm like, I can't wait to play. I can't wait to do this. And I'm like, I can't get under the little spot because I can't turn into the ball. And you're like, and I don't like any tips, right? I never look on the internet for tips or anything. And you're just like, go left. I'm like, go left. It was the first game, and it got me back in the 80s. It got me a few years ago. Like everything, Mario, everything. You went to the right. This game started off with a little trickery. You had to go to the left to get the power up to turn to the ball. And then you go, I must have sat there for 15, 20 minutes saying, what the hell? What am I doing here? And then on top of it, like I said, I don't like to look. I don't look at anything on the internet. So I make my own maps. Dwark, show my map.
What map?
The next slide, Dwark. There it is.
Oh, so many secrets.
So many secrets.
Oh my god.
So I'm drinking Bud Platinums at night, and I'm making this map.
Yeah, this isn't when you were like 10 years old. This is like a
No,
couple years ago.
you saw me do this about 3 or 4 years ago, and yeah, I'm sitting there, and in my head I'm thinking, there's so many secrets, and I wrote so many secrets. But yeah, there's my map of Metroid, which makes perfect sense to me. I'm obviously no
It
Mike
looks
Brady.
good.
I'm no Mike Brady, that's for sure. So then, yeah, so I'm playing Metroid, and so recently I had so much fun with it, so much fun. But when I was younger, I got up to Kraid, the boss. And like we didn't have the internet or anything back then. We had Nintendo Power, which would come up. You would get little tips here and there in the power in the magazine, which was, that was kind of cool. And they do articles, but they also had a Nintendo Power line. And I couldn't beat Kraid. I'm just a young kid. I'm like, I have good intentions. I call up, I'm like, I can't beat Kraid. I don't know why I sound like Dwarf when I did that. I can't beat Kraid.
Well,
And
it
they're
doesn't
like,
sound like you're very good at video games.
you son of a bitch. All right, listen,
Again with this.
Last week he said wrestling was fake. This week, well, Dwarf, I got a little warning for you.
There he is.
Oh
Got a
no!
little
Oh
warning for you,
no!
Dwarf. Don't make me put him in. He's begging to come in, coach. He's begging to come in. All right.
Beat him up in
So
5th grade.
you guys went to school together?
Yeah.
What a weird ass school that must have been. A Dwork and an Alf in the same class. Who would have thought? But I called up this line, and I'm like, and they're like, how many missiles do you have? And I was like, I don't know what I said, like 75. They're like, you need more missiles. Go kill yourself. Then they hung up on me.
And it cost you $12.
$12. Yeah, my 1-800 number. The Nintendo Power line.
Looks like they gave you the right advice.
That might be the best door yet.
There he is, James.
Get him out
Don't
of
make
here.
me break out James. Don't make me break out James. Wouldn't it be funny if next I pull up the actual Haiti kid? He's like, hey everybody.
Hey,
Everybody. Hey.
let me
Tag
in.
me in. Tag me in. Yeah, I got the Haiti kid right here. But yeah, they told me to go. So that's a little joke between me and you now. Like whenever we suck at a game, we just say, go kill yourself. That was their,
That's that big advice.
Later, I saw a documentary that talked about the power line. It turned out they were just a bunch of goofballs like us playing games back in the day that all shared maps with each other, and they had to remember a lot of stuff. So who knows who I got on the phone that day? But if you're watching now, what shitty advice you gave, for crying out loud. Yeah, I could have beaten Kraid with the amount of missiles. Now, later on in life, I know that. Shame on you, Nintendo Power Line. So what was the big secret at the end of this game? What was the big secret? What was the big reveal?
The big reveal was the game, and the game booklet that came with the game referred to Samus as him and he. And
even in the book it said that?
And yeah, they did.
Wow.
They tried a bit of trickery, but then when you beat the game, and this was one of those games too, that had multiple endings depending upon how fast you beat the game. So if you had the best ending, I think she stripped down to like a bodysuit. And it was a girl. It was a girl with hair, whatever. Yeah. And then I think if you
blew my mind.
Yeah, it blew all our minds. It wasn't. We could control a girl this whole time. What? Please.
What?
But of all the games on this list, this is probably one of the most nostalgic ones for me. This came out in 1987. I spent a good part of it of a year discovering all the. You were bombing every wall and shooting every brick, and there was some parts where you're like, I can't get. Once you get down to the bottom of the map, you're like, how the hell do I get back up? And that's the clue. You kill yourself, and then you start back at the top of the level.
Like I said, so many secrets.
so many secrets.
And that they're my favorite games. Like Resident Evil has a lot of stuff like that nowadays. I love games like this where you had to find things. And if there was a manual back then like there is now, it would have really upset me, because that amount of time that you spent bombing things, that like honed your gamer skills for later on in life. Like
right.
Really, that was boot camp for us trying to figure out how to get all those things done.
And another thing, before the big reveal, it was, now that you said Resident Evil, it reminds me of that when you beat the final boss, the Mother Brain, that's not the end of the game. You have to escape.
Yeah.
And just like in Resident Evil games, when the building's going to explode or whatever laboratory
And
you're
the,
in,
and the little
it's gonna
timer's
explode.
going off.
Yeah,
and
and you
like,
got a timer going off, and you have to make
Yeah.
these precise jumps with an imprecise, like, controller. And one slip and you're screwed. And
your little
but then,
8-bit jumping around, and
right, and you're spinning this way and spinning that
but
way.
you're right. You think you're done the game, and it had I'm gonna say it again, so many secrets.
So many secrets
They
for
kept revealing
the
themselves.
Metroid. The big gripe I have about this game is there was no map, no in-game map. Even a couple of the games came with a map in the instruction booklet. This didn't give you any clues
Nothing.
on what was going on.
Yeah, you saw mine. That's what I had when I was
yeah,
young.
that's tough to work with. Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo system.
Awesome.
Yeah, that cleaned everything up. That gave you a map. That gave you locations to save.
I like the no map though. I like the struggle. I like struggling.
Yeah, those were the days.
It makes us stronger, I think.
I think so too. They did have a continue code system, and there was codes back then to get full energy tanks and missiles and start you right at the mother brain. Basically, you'd have to navigate through the last area where the dozen Metroids were.
Right.
So they did have codes like that, and so that was kind of revolutionary too in 1987. When you're thinking about it, there wasn't really continues. It's like you played the game and left it on. If you had to go through something, you had to leave the game on.
A lot of our games screwed us like that.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of it.
And then you come home and either your brother or your sister or whatever shut the game off. You're like, oh man, I was halfway to the mother brain.
Yep.
Now I gotta start all over again. The other thing about Metroid 2 is about killing yourself. It's the right thing to do, because you start off, when you die, you start off with I think like 30 energy, and you have to farm no matter how many energy tanks you have to farm all that energy back before you can even take on Ridley or Kraid or the mother brain.
Don't even risk it. Don't even risk it. Yeah.
It's not even worth it. So
So maybe Nintendo Power was onto something.
They were onto something. I was
mad. I was mad at that advice back in the day, but yeah, it's a great game. A great game. And when I replayed that, I also replayed the Super NES.
And that's another. I mean, that was an incredible game.
Unbelievable game. So yeah, so Metroid's definitely on our list. Number 2, man, I still play this game. Probably, I throw it on maybe once or twice a month. Sometimes I just play it. This game, I don't know why I would say it relaxes me. It relaxes me until I get the Medusa heads. That's what. Then when a friggin' flying monkey or a Medusa head or a bat knocks you into the water 85 times, you're not so relaxed anymore. But I love Castlevania. That's why it's here. It's one of my favorite games ever. And you talked about not being able to save and continue and blah. There was a lot of games like that. Well, this one, it would start you off. If you continued, you'd start off at the beginning of the level or whatever. But if you didn't get to where you needed to be, you had to leave it on. And I didn't. And sometimes I put black electrical tape over the red power light that would come on, so nobody would know my Nintendo was on. If my parents are watching this, sorry about the electric bill. I don't know how much an 8-bit Nintendo ate up, but I'm sorry. But the one time I was having a lot of trouble with the Grim Reaper. I like to use the boomerang. I was a boomerang guy. Later on, I realized holy water is the way to go. Get him in the corner. Blah, 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 blah. But I was using the bat, and he was beating it. But I finally beat him and everything. My dad was mopping the floor that day and everything. And he put the bucket down, and it knocked. It didn't turn the system off, but it knocked the tape up. And I was like, no! I threw a fit. Like nowadays, kids wouldn't have to deal with that because you could just save everything. But back then it was like, oh my God. But the good news was I could get up the Grim Reaper in no time at that point. But beating them was very hard for me back in the day. And then you saw me play it down in Fun Spot, and I can get to Dracula in like no time. But Dracula's monster, it's another game where you think you won. You beat Dracula, and now comes Dracula's monster. He beat me down. Torque, can you show the picture that was taken of me that day, please? And this is not a planned picture. This is me truly devastated. And the guy on our guest tonight, Brian, snapped this one of me, and I am I'm exasperated. I'm tired. I'm probably got a few platinums in me. It was rough that day. But we
I
had to
think-
start the Tecmo Bowl tournament, so I
I
didn't beat him that day. So
Yeah, I think we actually left the Nintendo because we were playing on a retro console. We were playing
Yeah.
on a cartridge console. I think we
Right.
actually left it on for hours at a time. You walked away for a little bit and
yeah,
came
I had
back
to
to
walk
it.
away. Yeah, I was getting
You know,
angry. I was throwing
um,
fits. So what was
Looks
what
like
was
you
your deal with this
should
game?
probably stick to Pong.
who's
Pong.
coming out now?
Wait, how's Dwork even know what Pong is?
Right?
Wait, I'll have you know, Dwork, we play Neo nowadays. You talk about a frustrating game.
Oh my God!
That's one of them, buddy. And Madden Weekend League? Pong. Pong this. Pong this. Dwork. I'm sorry you have to deal with this.
That's all right. No, that's
nonsense.
fine. No, Castlevania is another Konami masterpiece. I mean, everything about it, the music from, I mean, just the soundtrack alone, you hear the song and it puts you there, like where you were when you know what I mean? Every level, every stage, whatever you want to call it, has a different theme song, different colors they use. It was just it's a masterpiece.
And a monster of the level, a big monster at the end. That
And-
is
and you
classic.
start-
You got
and
a
you-
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You know, you got the Dracula. They put some well-known monster bosses.
They pump it up because you're like, oh, here's a bat. Oh, big deal. I throw an axe at a bat, whatever. And then you can get through the first couple all right. And then all of a sudden they turn up the intensity to 11, where the room right before you get to the Grim Reaper, there's not a pixel on the screen.
The axes and the Medusa heads.
There's not a pixel on the screen that isn't covered by a knight or an axe or a bat or a Medusa head flying this way, that way. And it's like, this is the hardest. That's the hardest part of the whole game.
You know,
other than Dracula's second form.
that little strip right there is pretty tough because they throw candles up top, and you're like, I really kind of want to get what's. I want
what's in
but
there?
you don't have time. You're like, you might accidentally get a candle when you're hitting a Medusa head. But yeah, that little strip before the Grim
No
Reaper.
matter what hits you on those couple, it's only a couple screens. It's maybe
Yeah.
2-3 screens, I think.
Mhm.
But no matter what hits you, it takes a quarter of your health away. So if you get hit 4 times, you're done with.
Yeah.
And that's before you even see the Grim Reaper.
Right.
So I mean, this was a challenging game, but a great game.
I'll tell you, I'm very good at that little spot right now.
It's tough.
Just because I had to be to get to the Grim Reaper. Like it's not to bring up Neo again, but you ever notice how good we are in the early levels? Like we know the maps, we know where everything is because we died 10 million times on those maps.
Doing
That's
it.
why we know where things are. The later on maps, I'm like, why don't I remember this as well? I'm like, oh, that's because my guy wasn't a complete wimp at this point.
Right. You powered through.
And it's the same thing right before the Grim Reaper. I know, I can almost feel their movements coming at me. It's great. You're at one with the Medusa heads. But yeah, at some point, because Simon's in that, and we got classic characters. Another podcast we're going to do, top 5 NES characters. And I think top 5 NES bosses. Listen, we got a whole series going here, my friend. I hope you're ready to talk about video games. But before we get to our bit, that's it for Castlevania, right? We good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so before we get to the big one, I looked. First of all, there's some that didn't make the list that definitely should have made the list, and
you can only put 5.
How you only got 5? Like,
or an arcade 6.
We already cheated once. We can't cheat twice. So here's some runners up. Yeah, and if you could just leave this up the entire time, that would be fantastic, and I will forgive you for your indiscretions earlier. So I looked over. First of all, I thought to ourselves, man. And the first one that popped in my head was Contra.
Yeah.
How did you leave Contra off a top 5 list? I play that game. I beat that game at least once or twice a year because I just love playing.
That's an iconic game.
Oh man, and 2-player, and you know, it's almost easier when it's 1 player because sometimes the other guy is stuck in a spot where he keeps falling in, and you're at the end of the screen, and you're trying to jump, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm stuck in midair because your friend's a mile back. So it's almost hard, but up, down, left, right, BA start, or select start if you have a friend.
Right.
I played by myself a lot, so I didn't hit select an awful lot. But that was because I don't know how I see people beat it without the extra lives because that's 30 lives 3 times.
Yeah, that's intense.
That's a lot of lives, and I need them to beat the game. I'm not going to lie. I feel, regardless of what Dork says, you and I, we're pretty damn good at these games, and I need. I'm
not beating that game.
I can't beat this game without
when I was 10 years old, and when I'm 42 years old. I'm not
Yep,
beating
it
that on 3
hasn't
lives.
changed for me either. But I love it. So what? How about you? It's I mean, you got Arnold and Rambo, right? Is
Right
that
there on the cover. Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
and Alien? Like they couldn't steal more movies for that cover.
Right.
Now number two is funny though because I didn't play it. You didn't play it, really, right? You weren't. Were you a Mega Man guy?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, you were. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I would switch out the original Mega Man, which was good. I would switch it out for 2 because a lot of people think that that's the
That's the
was
better one. Gotcha.
of the
I kind
series.
of put the series in general because, and I'm going to be honest with you. When I was younger, I mean, my friends had it and I played it a little bit. Looking at the cartridge, I remember a game that looked just like that cartridge, Ghosts and Goblins, that gave me nightmares. But
Yeah.
this game, I never got into as a kid. And I tried to a few years ago when I was replaying games and I just couldn't.
That,
Maybe it didn't hold up to its time for me, but for you, you loved it. So tell me about Mega Man.
yeah, it's another one that's it's a Capcom masterpiece. I mean, the soundtrack, the levels, the boss design, everything about it is just, it's one of these games where it's you started off, you could fight any one of these robots, but if you did it in a particular order, it was much easier.
Order
So
mattered. I
yeah,
remember
so it
that.
was trial and error. It was
Because you get
you know,
fire, or isn't there like different like things that you
yeah,
get?
yeah, you can throw saws and fire and
Whatever
ice
you get in the
beam
right
and
order. Yes, I remember
right.
that.
So if you could figure out the order, you were good. But
Get it
it was
better.
a challenge. It was a challenging game. It was a tough game.
Maybe I'll give it. Maybe I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll start with Mega Man 2. And
Yeah.
then we're talking classic here, and a lot of you. I looked at a lot of what you people said on the comments, the fans of the page, and they matched up with a lot. Some of these I didn't even think of, like number 4 there, but Excite Bike, it came in my mind. I was like, was it just me? And I saw so many people pick it. I love this game. You know what I love most about it is you could make your own
Yeah.
tracks, and it was a lot of fun.
That was revolutionary for the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you could actually create, your own tracks and ride them. Have your friends ride your
I'd
tracks and
still
stuff.
overheat. I'd overheat every
Oh
day.
yeah, of course, and fall right off the bike every single time.
I was on the side of the road constantly in that game, going huffing back to my bike. And then number 4, in the arcade, yes.
Yeah.
On my Commodore 64, yes. But I honestly, Paperboy is one of my favorite games ever made. It was just fun because I wasn't allowed to be a Paperboy growing up. I don't know if it was because my parents thought it was like danger, like going to people's house and collecting money, or was it more that they kind of knew I was going to get a little lazy with it a weekend and they'd have to go to the houses and collect money. And honestly, I don't blame them. I see me getting very bored of delivering newspapers. But the proof that I could do it when I was 21 years old, I delivered newspapers at 3 a.m. every night while I was in college. I'd go through and so I was a paper boy, but I wasn't 10. I was like 21 or 22. But this game is great in the arcade. I didn't really play it much on the Nintendo, honestly. I played on my Commodore 64 in this, but people loved it. Did you like this game or?
Yeah, I rented this a few times from the local little store there. It was difficult. I thought it was fun. I mean, throwing papers through windows
so
and stuff like
hard.
that, running over little old ladies trying to cross the street. But it was a tough game, and we played it up in Fun Spot.
Yeah.
The
arcade was cool.
controls.
You had
It was the handlebars, yeah, the
Yeah.
handlebar control. But it was a tough game to get used to, especially on the NES, I think.
Yeah, because every week they would say how you did, and you would lose houses or you get tips.
Yeah, right.
And man, I lost
Got
houses
fired.
all the time. If it was any indication of how I would be in real life as a paperboy, my parents made the right decision. The next one, Ninja Gaiden, and I played it when I was younger, and I remember, and I really loved it. But I didn't play as much as other games. But I played it recently, a few years ago, and holy hell, the final level of this game. They talk about Ghosts and Goblins and all these other games are hard. That final level of that is very unforgiving. Like, and it's not like things where they give you the most difficult boss, this and that, like they do nowadays. It's just making these key jumps while you're getting a Chinese star thrown at you and shit. So
Right.
What do you think of Ninja Gaiden?
It's a great game. They threw in elements of story. There was a story,
Oh,
to it. There was little, you're a woman. What are you doing here?
Yes,
Like that
yes.
scene, just a girl.
That's making the editing. So I just remembered
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good game. It was tough. That was a challenging game.
Tough game, but
Fun though.
super
Fun.
fun. And ninjas were huge back then. Anything with a ninja, I was down with because ninjas were, they were the big thing back then. Now the next one, when I went against my better judgment because I'm a Tetris guy, and I didn't play Dr. Mario back in the day, but my two coworkers, because at the end of the year we bring in the NES and we play old school games at the end of the game at last day of the school year, and we play Dr. Mario. And I'm like, oh, I want to play Tetris. And it was kind of like it was a Tetris Dr. Mario type mix match type game where you play, but and I didn't really get it. Once I understood it, I'm like, this game's incredible. I'm like, and I saw a lot of people in the comments say Dr. Mario. I don't think I saw maybe one person say Tetris. So I put this in, and to be honest with you, I didn't play Tetris that much on the Nintendo. You know where I played Tetris? Game Boy. I played me and my friends would combine our Game Boys and we played Tetris against each other on field trips, everything. So Tetris is my favorite game. But I put Dr. Mario, one, because I didn't give it enough credit, and two, a lot of people put in the comments. What's your feelings on Dr. Mario versus Tetris?
I like Tetris better. Dr. Mario is good. That was a game, I think that was 1990, so I'm not sure we're allowing that.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm going to
No, we put on Tecmo Bowl. We put on Tecmo Bowl with Tetris. And Tetris was 1989, I believe.
Okay, yeah, and Tetris, yeah, and Tetris, I think they're
both good. They're both fun as hell. They're both
awesome,
fun games.
But you're right. No, Tetris is my game. Like, I love Tetris. But I put Dr. Mario on because a lot of people said it. But really, in my view, I'm putting Tetris on there. And no offense to everybody else, instead of Mega Man, I might throw in 1942 because I played that game so much. My little playing around. But I threw in Mega Man because I know it is a runner-up. So even though
there's a big fan base for Mega Man.
There's a huge fan base for it, and there's like 8 of them or something, right? Like 8 or 9. There's a ton of them.
There's 20.
No, 20.
Yeah, there's something like 20 of them. Yeah, they kept on coming out with them on PlayStation and PlayStation 2.
I was thinking just like Nintendo or Super Nintendo, but you're right, they kept going. So
no, so for the Nintendo series, I think there's like 10 or 11 of them though.
There's a lot. Yeah,
to be honest with you,
I'm over 20 with Mega Man. Next up, I don't know how many people love this game, but this is one of my favorite games. Not only to play, but I was a big RC guy back in the day. I had my Hornet. My friend had Grasshopper. We all had the RC cars, and the Monster Beetle, the Lunchbox. That's a whole different podcast. But RC Pro-Am was so much fun, and you'd go around and you would collect letters, and you'd upgrade to the next truck, and then the hot rod. Love this game. Very difficult towards the end, though. Once it's not.
Oh yeah.
Not an easy game. Do you like this game, RC Pro-Am?
Oh yeah. We busted this out a couple of years ago back at Fun Spot, and we took a couple laps on that. And it's a fun game. It's really fun.
Yeah, and just like an RC car, you gotta get used to going. You're going different directions based on the. It was different.
Hitting a little oil slick, maybe crashing into a barrier.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to get that N with the spell Nintendo.
Now we got we already have a ninja on the list, but I said it's the decade of the ninjas, right? We love ninjas. So I put Kung Fu on there too and I love Kung Fu. But then I looked on the comments, a lot of people put Kung Fu. So I threw it in there. I think it's a great game. It's very difficult though, because when you get one little guy attached to you, then all of a sudden you got
they all jump on.
Yeah, you're getting digitally violated, within 20 seconds. You got 20 of these little guys hanging on you, and you're like trying to get off. And they had little bosses at the end, and it was it's a cool game. It's a lot of fun and very difficult. So we got 2 of those old school black cartridge.
The launch titles there. Those are 1985 originals right there.
And they made it. So
Excitebike.
I think they deserve to be on the runner-up. I think they're both good, and we probably could add 4 more runner-ups easily, maybe 5.
Oh, easy. Easy.
But due to lack of time and the Too Bad situation a few weeks ago, we're going to carry on. Before George shows us, let me explain the number 1 game. I'm in the Wool Wars. I'm in Wool Wars. I don't know if they have Wool Wars up by you back.
Oh
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. I actually worked there. It was the first job. I worked in the snack bar. But when I was younger, we went to Wool Wars, and I bought this cartridge, and it was golden. It shined, and I couldn't wait to get home to put it in. And me and look, it's blinding. My friend Carl Lurch back in the day, he moved. I have no idea where he is now, but I was in Fashion Bug with my mom, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to get home.
Carl Lurch.
Yes, George. Do you remember? George sounds like he has rough memories with Carl Lurch. He was a nice kid. He was a nice kid. If you're
If
watching,
he's
this,
liking now, subscribe.
hey Carl, if you're listening, don't forget to hit the
The
subscribe button.
notification bell.
No matter how bad this story turns out with me and you, don't forget to hit subscribe. So we get home and I start playing it, and I kid you not, because he slept over that night. We played that game all night and day, nonstop, addicted. I don't think there was a game of all the games we listed tonight. It's close, but I don't think there's a game I was more addicted to than Zelda. And once again I replayed it a few years ago. Jork, could you hit the next slide, please? All right, and
That's
I
a
could
real
have looked
map.
up. I could have looked at a map.
Yeah.
But I'm a proud man. I'm a stubborn man. So I'm going to make my own map. Jork, let's do a comparison. There it is. Now,
It's beautiful.
look at Dungeon 1 up there, Dungeon 2. I got little bushes drawn.
You got a store there.
I got oh no, that says, oh yeah, there's a little store. I thought you were looking at my horrible handwriting. Start. That's where you start. And then
Oh,
there's
that's
a
yeah.
store.
Okay, the start. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's my map. And you know what? I had just as much fun playing it a few years ago as I did when I was younger. It's an amazing game. Amazing. What was your experience with good old Zelda?
Yeah. Well, this game it set the standard for everything else that came after it, right? I mean,
Everything.
I mean, you saw the when you pulled it out of the box, like you said, with a gold cartridge. You're like, hey, this isn't like what I've been playing in these gray cartridges.
This isn't my old gray cartridge.
No. So it was one of the first. I think it was the first game to use the lithium battery to have a save function on it, which was massive because the game was massive.
Yeah.
So that battery, it was only supposed to last for a couple of years, I think, and I think mine still works 30 years later.
Wow.
So I haven't plugged it in within the last couple of years, but a few years ago when I replayed it worked. My save was there.
Your original game from years ago.
Yes.
Was still there. That's amazing. Yep.
And this was probably 5 years ago when I rebought a refurbished Nintendo NES. I had all the old cartridges. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I mean, where do you start with Zelda? I mean,
so many secrets.
It's so many secrets. It's another game where you had to, every item that you got was a tool. It not only functioned as a weapon, but it was a tool that could open up a new area. Or you're burning bushes, you're bombing walls, you're whistling in front of lakes.
Yep.
And then when you finally did get to the end and save Zelda and whatnot, it was a second quest that was much harder, and everything was rearranged. And I mean, New Game Plus. They invented New Game Plus pretty much. So yeah, it's an incredible game. I still have fun playing it. I still have fun playing all the sequels and prequels, and it's actually my kid's favorite game.
Another classic character, Link.
Yeah.
Like you talked about Simon, you got Link. All these games that we're naming tonight, every single one I'm looking at has a classic character, and that was a big part of the game. I guess Tecmo. I don't know who was that. Bo. I don't know.
But it was Bo Jackson. We didn't even mention Bo Jackson and Tecmo.
Tecmo a lot, but these games all have something in common. They all have a character that you fell in love with, and they all had a bunch of little jerks trying to knock you in water and stuff. They all had their little. They all had their
little pests.
Their heads. Yeah. So yeah, this game was unbelievable, and then they went on. We'll talk about sequels in maybe a different episode. I'm not a huge fan of Link, The Adventures of Link. I'm not a huge fan of the second Castlevania. But the third one of both of these, they might be better than the first one, right? I mean,
yeah. It was kind of Nintendo's MO to like have the successful game, and then in the second one do like a total like 180 and do with Mario 2. You know what I mean?
They thought they had to reinvent themselves completely. And like you said, 180. Maybe like a 90 degree would have been better.
Right. I still enjoyed for the time Simon's Quest. I know it's ridiculous right now to go back and look.
What a horrible
night to have a curse. Yeah, I know. I still enjoyed it when I was a kid. That was one of my favorite ones. But but Dracula's Curse #3 is obviously probably the best one.
Yeah,
where you can split different paths and different characters and stuff. But where we're going into a whole new episode of
Right. But no,
Facebook, man.
I think we covered a lot of ground tonight, and we ended with Zelda. And I don't think there's a better way to end with Zelda. So it was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah, no, this was fun.
You are
Good luck with
game-
everything. With the
you're a game aficionado.
yeah, an enthusiast. I'm an enthusiastic young man.
But yeah, thank you. I'm having a good time, and I mean, we've talked about this for years, me and you doing
Yeah,
something.
Facebook man.
Facebook men, we call it. Instead of comic book men, we're Facebook men. And because we've been doing this for years. And but sadly tonight, just like an uppercut from Mr. Dream, due to copyright reasons, licensing, just like an uppercut from Mike Tyson / Mr. Dream. Game over. It's been fun, guys.
All right, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And guys, make sure you check out Raise 80s Awareness if you're not already a fan of their page. And please, for this YouTube page, getting a lot of views, getting a lot of comments, subscriptions, just hit that little subscription button. It's free of charge. All right. I've had a great night, even with you, Dwork, even with your snarky remarks. It's been
Yeah,
a
good
good
luck.
night.
Good luck, Dwork.
All
Good-
right.
Yeah. Good luck.
How about you?
Good luck, Dwork.
Just
You're
go kill
you're
yourself.
need it next week. Pleasure. Guys, Brian, thank you very much for coming, and we're going to do this again very soon.